Good Tuesday morning to you. I've been thinking a lot about things that I miss from living in Wisconsin. Now that my family and I have lived in Oregon for about 3.5 years, there's two things that I actually really miss about my time in Wisconsin, about living in Wisconsin. The first is mowing the lawn. We had 10 acres. We had an orchard in Wisconsin, and I mowed about 5 acres of that. I loved sitting on my riding lawnmower and going through the orchard and the apple trees when they were bloomed out, and then when the fruit started to come forth, and just watching how those tiny little buds turned into juicy, thick, wonderful, ripe apples. I loved mowing the lawn. There was something sacred about that time. I could just sit on the lawnmower and breathe deeply all of the scents of the grass and of the orchard, and it was just such a sacred time for me. I also miss driving, and I was thinking about this morning because I took a friend up to the airport this morning, and while I'm not a morning person, I don't like to get up early. The one thing that you will get me out of bed early to do is to take someone to the airport. I love driving up to the airport, and I know that sounds probably a little crazy to you. Maybe some of you are questioning my mental stability right now, but there's something about driving when you're in your car and you're just taking in all of the sights and the scenes around you. I'm not talking about traffic. I'm not talking about the crazy drivers that are on the road. But when you're just crossing the landscape and you really have an appreciation for the beauty around you. Those are two things that, to be quite honest, I took for granted until they weren't part of my daily routine. And every time I have the opportunity to drive to the coast or drive up to Portland or drive anywhere else for that matter, I find myself recalling how much that time is life-giving to me. Now, for the last few days, I've been reading out of Exodus. I love the Old Testament narrative and how it helps us to fully grasp a God who loves us, who is constantly redeeming us. Last Friday, I talked about Exodus 15, and I've made my way into Exodus 19. As the Israelites have started their journey in the wilderness, as they began to turn the cycle of grumbling against God and then asking for forgiveness and God blessing them, there's a moment that happens before God gives Moses the 10 Commandments. There's a moment that happens that reminds me of that time on a lawnmower or the time that I treasure in the car. It's in Exodus 19, and I'm just going to read verses 7 into around 11. So Exodus 19, beginning with verse 7. So Moses came and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. The people answered as one, "Everything that the Lord has spoken we will do." Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to come down to you in a dense cloud in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so trust you ever after." When Moses had told the words of the people to the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and prepare for the third day, because on the third day the Lord will come upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all people." God is getting ready to give Moses the 10 Commandments. God's getting ready to create a new order and a new covenant for his people. The people had been in Egypt for so long that they had truly forgotten the relationship that God had desired with them. And so there's this moment where God's speaking to Moses, and Moses is telling the people, and then the people are speaking to the Lord through Moses, and Moses is telling God. There's a little bit of a phone tag going on, right? And all of it is to show that God is listening. God is hearing the people, and the people are listening to God too. Right before the passage beginning in verse 3, it says, "Then Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, 'Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and to tell the Israelites, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you obey my voice and keep my command, you shall be treasured, my treasured possession out of all the people. Indeed, the whole earth is mine, but you shall be for me a priestly kingdom, a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the Israelites.'" So, beginning in verse 7, this is what Moses now is relaying to the people. You are my priestly nation, a royal treasure. And all of that comes from the imagery that God sets forth, that he delivered his people like that on the wings of an eagle. That comes again, that refrain comes again through the Psalms as well. Maybe that's why I like lawnmowers and car rides, is because there's a part of me feels like I am as free as a bird flying through the sky. Not to say I'm permitted to do whatever I want on the roadway, and certainly not in a lawnmower. That could get you into trouble. But there's a freedom when it's just you and God. There's a freedom that comes in being still before God. There's a freedom that comes when we silence out everything else in the world and simply listen. Now, for me, the hum of a lawnmower helps everything else to be quiet. In the hum of a car and the traffic around and the road noise helps me to focus solely on my conversation with God. Maybe you're like that, or maybe you're even better than that and you like things completely quiet. So I wonder today for you, as you're beginning a new week, where are those quiet moments for you? What do they look like? Are they on an afternoon walk? Do you find the ability to create some quiet time with coffee in the morning or in the afternoon? What about in the evening? Is there a space that you have given where you can clearly hear the voice of God saying, you are my treasured people. You are my prized possession. Sometimes I think we think of that phrase, prized possession, and we think of ourselves as a thing. But it's bigger than that when it comes to God. To be his treasured possession is to mean that all of ourselves, our lives, and everything in it is God's. We are simply the caretaker of what God has entrusted to us, but it ultimately belongs to him. What a beautiful gift. It's actually quite freeing, isn't it? We're not in charge, and we don't have to worry about being in charge. God has all things in his care. Anyway, this is where I'm thinking about lawnmowers and car rides, and how God speaks to us, how God speaks to us in the waiting and the wonder. God speaks to us in quiet moments and opportunities to just unplug and truly listen to him. I hope you find yourself with one of those opportunities today. Have a great day.